Thanks for joining us today. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and our guest today is Susan Racher. Racher.
Yeah.
And her son, Matthew.
Yeah.
And you're with the National Alliance of Mental Health Institute. I'm sorry. And this is the Mental Health Awareness Month.
That's correct.
It's our third time doing this, and I think this is an important issue, for all of us throughout all the hundreds of years of that we've been able to look back, and certainly in the last year, about the stress that is on each of us, whether we are affected directly by COVID or not. So let's hear your story, Susan.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you for lifting up the issue of mental health and mental wellness. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this year it takes on a whole new and even more important meaning as people are recovering from the trauma, from the sadness, from the loss, from isolation, and loss of security from COVID. And in fact, NAMI Miami, an organization that is the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the largest grassroots mental health organization in the country, has seen a geometric increase in the need in our community. It's estimated that more than 1 out of 2 people have experienced mental health and mental wellness deterioration as a result of COVID and the stress.
We understand that part of this process is to know that it's happened, and then to acknowledge it within, that we're not all like the Superman thing, that everything is great and we'll just take the last 14 months and pretend like it didn't exist. So Matthew, tell us why you're here today.
So I'm here. I'm an individual with lived experience with having experienced mental health challenges myself. I also work as a mental health advocate, and I volunteer with NAMI. So I'm here to share my story about what I went through years back and the work I do today.
And why is it important for you to share this story?
For me, it's important for me to share this story because one thing I was going through when I experienced my mental health challenges was I felt alone. I felt like nobody else has experienced what I went through, and I'm going to suffer with this alone and not heal and not get better.
So what was that like in your most terrible despair, thinking, am I alone with this? What was that like, and what caused you to move forward?
What it was like was it was almost like this dark Groundhog Day. It was waking up every day after a hospitalization of having experienced psychosis and a mental health decompensation, and waking up just feeling broken, feeling like there's nothing I can do or nothing anyone can do to help me get back to my normal sense of self or who I used to be. So it was a very isolating feeling.
But when you were feeling that, you were acutely aware of it, but did you say, hey, there's really something wrong here? Did you know that?
Yeah, it was kind of like a mixed bag because after the hospitalization, I was still experiencing residual of the delusions and residual of the psychotic symptoms. But I did know something was wrong. I knew something was wrong, and I needed help, and I needed to latch onto the support around me for that.
And by the way, if there's something that I'm asking that you're uncomfortable with, feel free to say, just avoid it, all right? And you can say, I don't want to talk about it. But there are people out there right now that are wondering what that's like. And so the more you are willing to share, the more there's a possibility that somebody is going to be there that can be helped, because maybe they're feeling right now what you did. All right. So if you care to share that, tell us what it was like in your relationship with your family, what you and they were going through.
Okay. So going back a little bit, before I was hospitalized, I was experiencing just what felt like my mind imploding. I was stressed out. I was starting to get obsessive thoughts, delusional thoughts. And it just felt like my world was crumbling around me. So I look at mental illness and mental health challenges as almost like this family illness. The family gets involved, my parents, my sister, they don't know what to do at the time. I'm not exactly aware at the time of what's going on, but I know something's wrong, and I know something's not healthy within my mind. So, basically, after hospitalization, I was in a place where I was in this dark place. I was not sure what to do, what could help, what medication,
And we were in this dark place too, Michael, and that's what drove us to connect with NAMI. And that's why NAMI has such an important and critical role in the community. Matthew had excellent medical care, and we also had excellent therapeutic care. But there is something empowering and important and healing about connecting with folks who have been through it, have lived experience, can give you advice, could tell you that it will get better. It could show you resources that help them, and to have a community to support Matthew and to support us, because mental health challenges are really isolating. And that's why we're so passionate about NAMI and about getting the message out.
So you found a team of coaches, if you will, and people that had very similar
other families, right?
That had that, and we know that that's important in not just the recovery, but in life, that we have the support system.
Absolutely.
And especially recently, when we see, how many people have gotten sick and how many people have died, we now that it's going away, we think, well, it was only 550,000 people. That's somebody's mother, uncle, sister, brother,
friend, colleague,
right,
neighbor.
And there's a certain profound sadness when we think about that people, even if they weren't directly affected, when we see that, and you go, oh my goodness, we know lots of people wind up not feeling very good about that.
Right.
A lot of people get depressed. And recently somebody asked me how I was doing. I said, in all seriousness, I said, is bipolar one word or is it two words? One day feeling really good, the next day like this. And we just never know where that is, right? Mm-hmm. But if we could get back for 1 second, how did your folks intervene there? And what was that like in communicating with them? Was it easy, hard, difficult? Did they understand? And how important was that for you?
I remember my parents were being as supportive as possible. And my interpretation of it may have been like still in this foggy frame of mind of not knowing what's going on. But I still remember my parents driving me to a support group across the state. I would go to these NAMI support groups, and sometimes I'd go and stay silent the whole time, not knowing what to say or how to interact. But eventually I'd gain support from these groups and share my story and share, and learn from others too.
So NAMI, when new people go in, right, is it like joining a tennis club? Everybody's really happy and let's go play a game? Or is this really sort of this very somber experience where, hey, this happened to me or to my family? And how do people move from being, as you were, sort of quiet at the beginning, to being now not just an active participant, but an assisting and making things right? So, Mom, what was that like getting in that?
We try to meet people where they are, and it's uplifting. Our facilitators are trained people with lived experience. So whether it's the family support groups or the peer support groups, they're individuals who've been there. We welcome new people. They're now on Zoom. We have 10 meetings a week, including one for parents of young children. And conversation is free. There are certain guide rails in terms of how long folks can talk and share, but it's quite an interactive experience.
And so this is for people that have all sorts of processes going on. It's not necessarily if you're psychotic and you've been arrested and you're in jail. It's also for people that are in the middle or at the beginning of this, correct?
Everyone who needs help, who feels like they need to connect to a group of folks who are feeling unwell, feeling mentally unwell.
It's a commonly known story that the former mayor of Miami, Alex Pinellas, when he was mayor, his brother was struggling and was living on the street, and ultimately, after several years, committed suicide. And one of the things that Mayor Pinellas said publicly is that he wished that he could have done more. And so we wonder, that we say, what is more, all right? Mm-hmm. And what is that?
More is early intervention. There's a whole medical protocol for what's called first episode. We don't have it broadly in Florida. We underfund mental health. We need to get it in. We were fortunate with Matthew because he underwent treatment and intervention early on. He wasn't living with it for 5 or 10 years. And Matthew mentioned that he felt like he was imploding. And one of the things that I am passionate about is interacting with parents and caregivers and family members of people going off to college or leaving the nest, because that's when mental health conditions tend to strike. Matthew experienced it in college, and folks need to know what the warning signs and symptoms are. We were blind to it. And in fact, as part of the NAMI walks, Unity Week, ahead of our May 22nd walk, we're having free programming for the community on Zoom. And 2 programs are called Ending the Silence for youth and Ending the Silence for families, to arm both with an understanding of what is mental wellness, what is a mental health condition, what do you do if you observe changes in your behavior or your loved one's behavior.
When we look at the history of mental illness from neuroses to psychoses, we realize that's always been pushed away. Uncle so-and-so's like that,
Right.
or brother so-and-so.
Right.
And people really don't like to talk about it. What is it that causes folks to want to remain silent or quiet about it?
There's a lot of shame still, and particularly among our ethnic groups in Miami-Dade County and elsewhere. There's a lot of shame that because mental health conditions affect, the essence of who you are, your personality, your behavior, your sense of self, folks are afraid of it. I know when we do Ending the Silence in schools, the lens by which the young people in the high schools look at mental illness is changed dramatically at the end of our presentation. But it starts out with the understanding that if you have a mental illness, you cannot recover. If you have a mental illness, you're going to be sent to an insane asylum. If you have a mental illness, life is hopeless. Those are all wrong. And it's really important to correct the narrative on that.
I've heard open conversation about heart attacks and broken arms and broken legs and
Right.
cuts and bruises and all this stuff. There have not been many open conversations. Oh, by the way, I had a breakdown over the weekend, or I had an anxiety attack, or I was feeling a little delusional. What is it going to take in our system that more and more people will allow that conversation to flourish instead of suppressing it?
I think organizations like NAMI, spreading the word. We're lighting up the city green the week of Unity Week. City Hall in Miami, the county buildings, Pinecrest, Palmetto, Baptist, South Miami, North Miami Beach, sending a message that mental wellness matters, number one. Number two, we have to change the way we treat mental health. We're treating it as if it's when it is at stage 4, when folks are really ill. We have to get involved early, and we have to have parity between physical health and mental health. And so, a lot of it is institutionalized bias, as well as, cultural.
Well, we certainly have seen the change in the people that we see on commercials today compared to years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Before, it would just be a bunch of white people on TV, a guy and the wife and the kids, everybody's white and little kids. All of a sudden, in the last 5 years, we see that that's more representative of the world, and in particular the United States.
Right.
So, Matthew, what would have helped you ask for help earlier than when you did? What would have had to occur?
I think what would have had to occur was, I think, like plainly spoken, like stigma reduction, or peers reaching out to me saying like, Matt, we've noticed this, we've noticed that you're getting depressed, you're sleeping through classes. And also a certain, related to stigma, a certain comfort in me being able to come out and say like, something is wrong, I need to make that phone call. A lot of mental illness feels like weakness at times. It feels like I'm struggling and I'm going through this by myself, and I got to suck it up and be a man and be strong. And that's related to stigma. That's related to the societal perceptions of what it's like to have a mental health challenge. So.
Is that stigma tougher for men than it is for women that are suffering, or is it about the same? What do you think?
Men get help at less than half the rate that women do. And the rate that is low to begin with.
Because we're strong, all right, and we don't need it.
Right.
You're
right?
supposed to be strong, and also in communities of color, the rate, the incidence is the same, but the help seeking rate is a lot lower, and that's one of the reasons that Ending the Silence, our programs are so important. They're in Miami-Dade schools. I think if Matthew had seen that in high school and had understood the warning signs and had seen a young college student presenting Ending the Silence in a very positive way, he might have said, I'm feeling that. Maybe I should go get some counseling.
But it is difficult to look at a friend or somebody and say, how you doing? I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you seem a little depressed. Well, I'm a little, but it takes a bold person and two,
Right.
to be able to be sort of a clinician in that and say, well, there's something more than that.
Right.
And when in school, we look at the kids who miss school, they get into some trouble and they're not eating, and you can sort of factor that in. But a huge percentage of the people that are having mental issues, they're just like you and me.
Right. Most. And sometimes it's the quiet folks. So, I get very concerned when funding or intention focuses on kids who are disruptive. They absolutely, for sure need help, but it's often the quiet folks that need it more. And that's why having the first walk in the county is so important. We have
That's coming up when?
May 22nd. We have over 85 teams. We're hoping for 100, so it's not too late to sign up. It's NAMI Walks Your Way, in which each team will decide an event or something to do that they would like to do. It could be walking on the beach. It could be walking with their dogs. It could be a cooking demo. My group is doing exercise and mindfulness. And we encourage folks to go to namimiami.org to
We have
sign
that up
up.
on the site there? We will in a second. There we go. It'll be up there. Okay.
And again, watch the skyline of the city as it's lit up in unity and solidarity for mental wellness and for NAMI.
I might have mentioned this about a year ago. Somebody calls me and he says, Michael, I'm thinking about buying this piece of property. Could you call the guy down the street from you? I said, listen, this is his name. You can call him. 2 months later, he killed himself. And I'm thinking, maybe he wanted to have this conversation, and you look at it, and I'm pretty perceptive to those things, and you go, well, who's to know, all right? But let's talk about a mom or a dad or a sibling looking at one another in that family unit. And nobody wants to be a watchdog, but there are some apparent things that we should be watching out for. And Matthew, if you could tell us what were you demonstrating and showing that maybe somebody saw that they came to you and said, let's go get some help?
So it was kind of like on this progressive spectrum. It started with depression, sleeping through classes, staying up all night, getting involved in substance use or compulsive activities and behaviors. And then it kind of spiraled down into psychosis, where one day, I woke up, I still remember, walking down the street, walking down US 1 in traffic barefoot, stumbling to my psychiatrist's office without an appointment, and just feeling like there were these secret messages everywhere, and a lot of paranoia and ideas of reference and delusional thinking. So at that point, it was like a crisis point where it was time.
Did you know that while that was going on?
I did not know. I wasn't cognitive or mentally aware at the time. My mind was just on overdrive. It was, responding to internal stimuli and things around me. And, I still remember walking into a CVS thinking that there were secret messages everywhere. And it's a terrifying experience. You feel like people are after you.
So while that's going on, that delusions and hallucinations, you were scared.
I was scared. I was terrified. There were a lot of themes involved in my psychosis of tragedy, of kind of hallucinations of things going on that weren't really there, like gunfire and explosions, and it's terrifying. And yeah.
Well, you mentioned your friend, and Matthew's experience came a year almost to the day when he lost a friend to suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a devastating thing. as a parent, what could I have done? If I knew then what I know now, and I saw this popular, outgoing, happy-go-lucky, the world is my oyster kid going off to college, hearing that, not so happy, things are not so great, doing poorly in school, I wouldn't have blamed it on, he's, growing up, or he's in Cleveland. No wonder that he's having these
Susan,
problems.
was it a gradual thing, or was it just like all of a sudden?
No, it was gradual. It was definitely gradual over a year.
So everybody sort of gets used to it. Oh, they're just like that. Doesn't seem too bad. He's functioning. He's eating, or whatever.
Well, it's usually the transition from the nest to independence,
and those are
hard for everyone.
Those are absolutes. Is that correct?
75% of mental health disorders, arise between 15, 16, 17, and 30. Mm-hmm. And so it's that time when people are sowing their oats, they're acting out, they're testing new personalities and personas, they're leaving the nest for the first time. And so it's very hard for families. There's an issue here. And that's why it's important to educate folks, because if I knew then what I know now, we would have been even more responsive to what was happening.
When I was in school taking a couple months of psychiatry, the professor came over to me and she says, "Are you doing okay?" And so she saw something that I was just like staring, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, "You're right." And that's when I started going to therapy. I was in therapy for many, many years, right? And finally I had to read a book about how to say goodbye to your therapist. Because of that relationship that's formed. And that's also part of that growing part, right? Yeah. Which is I needed this transition, this in between. Right. And for whatever the age group happens to be, some people do it earlier and some people do it later. So I have a great amount of empathy, for this issue. Matthew, you wrote a song with a friend of yours, right?
I did, yes.
And you're going to play that in a minute for us. Why don't you tell us the name of it?
So the song is entitled "You Are Not Alone." And I wrote it with my best buddy and another peer support mental health advocate, Carlos Larari. And we met on our journeys of recovery, and we have similar lived experience. And we decided to take our music and write songs together, and we wrote this one together. So
okay, so why don't you grab your guitar?
Okay.
And be careful of the microphone there. And and prior to you starting, tell us why it was important for you to write it, and why is it important today that you sing this?
It was important for me to write it, and for us to write it, because with the experience that I went through with psychosis, you feel like you lose who you are, and you feel like nobody else has been through that. So I remember waking up day after day just thinking, I'm alone in this. I am broken. I'm alone. And certain themes of that thought. So to me, one of the most important messages is to let others know that they're not alone. There are other people who experience this and go through this, and recovery is possible, and peer support is out there, and professional help is out there. So
that's terrific.
So this is part of an album that Matthew and Carlos have put together. They've written many songs. This is just one of them.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm being a mom.
Proud mom.
I'm being a mom.
Go ahead, Matthew. You're on. Here you go. All right.
So here it is. This one's called "You Are Not Alone," and I do want to give a shout out to Carlos, and who wrote this song with me. So here it goes. So many days we spent in pure bliss, graced by this love we did witness. Laugh like children, let our love roll, dangled our hopes on dreams of a home, but now our souls are hardened and our tongues are tied and our eyes are heavy like the tears that we've cried. So baby, please remember, you are not alone. I am here, and Lord knows I will try. Baby, I will try. So baby, please remember, you are not alone. I am here, I am here. Baby, I will try. Baby, I will try. How many more tears must we shed? How many more days lost in fear and dread? There was a time so plain to see. The things were so simple as we live free. But now our souls are hardened and our tongues are tied and our eyes are heavy, like the tears that we've cried. So baby, please remember, you are not alone. I am here, and the Lord knows I will try. Baby, I will try. So baby, please remember, you are not alone. I am here, I am here. Baby, I will try. Baby, I will try. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Matthew, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And you're not alone, and you're making a difference out there. So
I'm
let's talk.
very proud of him.
As well, you should be. Good job, Mom.
Well, thank you. And you know, Matthew opened a door for our whole family to be involved in community work. Matthew led the way on that, and enriched our lives so much as we try to help others, so that they don't have to be alone and they don't have to go through the pain.
Okay, tell us again about May 22nd.
So NAMI Walks Your Way Miami is the very first walk for mental health in Miami-Dade. It is on May 22nd. It'll be preceded by a week of amazing programming. We are showing Ending the Silence for Youth. That's for middle, high school, and college age youth. Ending the Silence for families and caregivers. We're having a program on tapping. We're having a program on Latin and Hispanic youth mental health and mental wellness. We're having a film. We're all getting ready to go back to work. Life goes on as normal. Well, wait a minute. We've been at home and isolated for a year. How do you step outside the door? We're going to have a program about that, showing a film and talking to the director. It's a 10-minute short film that we had planned to show at NAMI's Real Minds Miami Film Festival that we have every year, but we had to cancel it because of COVID this year. We're going to have a whole week of programming, including NAMI 101, which will help the community understand how they can tap into our free programs and resources and get the help that they need. And then on May 22nd, we are launching our Walks Your Way with an opening ceremony at Museum Park, emceed by Sandra Fiedler-Viktorova, PBS, WPBT commentator and independent filmmaker. We have messages of support from our mayor, Daniela Levine Cava, mayor's City of Miami mayor, Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, South Miami, North Miami Beach, and many more. And we have a great program set up for May 22nd. It's not too late for teams to sign up and become part of what will be a National Day of Unity on the 22nd, with 43 states participating in getting the message out that it's okay not to be okay, and that there's help if you're not feeling okay.
It's tremendous. We got 1 minute left. Matthew, I'd like you to take us out. All right. You got 30 seconds of wherever you want to sing that song. All right. And we're going to end with that. All right.
Okay.
And
You want to do
right,
soul
we're going to
healing?
look right over there at that camera. Look over there.
Okay.
And we can do 30 seconds, and then he's just going to say, and we're going to fade away at that.
Okay.
Okay.
So baby, please remember, you're not alone. I am here. I am here. Lord knows I'll try. So baby, please remember, you're not alone. I am here. I am